Hello, it's Tom with Digital Foundry, and today we'll be looking at Dark Souls 3 benchmarked across a series of graphics cards. So our main goal here is pretty simple: can we get a locked 60 frames per second while running at 1080p with all settings maxed out? Our first options are of course the popular Nvidia GTX 970 and AMD's R9 390, and sure enough the game holds pretty tightly to that top 60 FPS mark. In fact, over the course of this video we scouted out areas far and wide to really stress each GPU, but neither of these would take any of it. Now we are running these tests on a Skylake i7 processor to make sure the CPU isn't a bottleneck, but overall we found a quad-core i5 does the job just as well. Another point worth mentioning, we are running Dark Souls 3 on its latest patch 1.03 on PC, which gives us all the latest performance enhancements, and as of Dark Souls 3's global launch date we're using the very latest Nvidia and AMD drivers available, which brings us to the other two cards in contention here. The next step down from the GTX 970 and R9 390 are of course the GTX 960 and the R9 380, and at max settings we have to say it's just not doable at this level of performance. We get drops to around 40 FPS on Nvidia's 960 card in particular, and sometimes lower in battle, which really is quite a ways off from where we need it to be. It's worth noting our model of the 960 has 2GB of GDDR5 memory, and there are 4GB models out there, which might be able to push the boat out a little further. But this can only make up so much ground, and at maxed out settings the game really is too much of a stretch for this card. And to a certain extent the same goes for the R9 380, in this case a 4GB model. AMD's card does beat out the 960, sometimes by up to 5 or 10 FPS, but the drops are still considerable when they happen, with a hit to 30 FPS later in this test around a heavy shader effect. The card's memory bandwidth is a big issue again in sustaining 1080p at maxed out settings. Now to get these weaker cards to 1080p 60, you can drop settings to get close to that target. By using console settings for example, with motion blur and shadows dropped to medium, and also effects pared back to medium for good measure, you can get sections of these tests running at a fluid 60 FPS. However, it's not perfect, and the R9 380 and GTX 960 can and will start dropping to 50 FPS during battle, so this isn't going to guarantee you the ultimate lock you'd hope for. For that, I'm afraid the only way forward is to drop lighting and shader settings to medium 2, or lowering effects further, which sadly means settling for less than the console standard in graphical settings. So in summary, a GTX 970 or R9 390 are precisely what you'll need to get everything out of Dark Souls 3. It's the full 60 FPS experience for these two cards with all bells and whistles. As for weaker GPUs, it is possible to hit the same level of smoothness at 1080p, but it will come at a cost to overall visual quality. Right, so hopefully that covers the bases for you. If you found this useful, give us a like or subscribe, and catch you in the next one.